She had a book to sell. 42 pages, colourful illustrations. A child on the cover searching for his father. It was released on March 5th, 2023, almost exactly 1 year to the day after Kouri Richins stopped breathing in their bedroom. Kouri put her name on the cover. She applied to appear on a local television programme to promote it, claiming it was the first children's book ever written about losing a parent. She showed up. She smiled. She talked about grief like someone who had survived it. But here's what that programme didn't know. Text messages introduced at trial showed Kouri hadn't written the book at all. In a message to her brother, she described it as good for the boys, but added that she wrote it to understand the book writing process, to get ready for, in her words, the big one. In a separate text, she noted the book cost $2,500 to produce. She wasn't processing the loss, she was practicing. And while she was doing that, investigators in Summit County, Utah, were quietly building a case that would take nearly 3 years to reach a courtroom. What they found was not the story of a grieving widow. It was the story of a woman who, according to prosecutors, a jury and a judge, had planned her husband's death, constructed a cover, and packaged that cover between 2 illustrated pages and put it up for sale. Kouri Richins was 39 years old. He had 3 sons. He never saw any of it coming. This is that story. Before we go any further, drop a comment and tell us where in the world you are watching from. We want to know. Kouri met Kouri in 2009. While she was working as a cashier at a home improvement store. He was steady, established, running a stonemasonry business that actually made money. They married on June 15th, 2013. That same day, Kouri signed a prenuptial agreement. If the marriage ended in divorce, Kouri's business remained entirely his. But if he died while they were still married, she was entitled to 50% of it. Divorce meant walking away with nothing. Death meant something else entirely. She didn't stay idle. In 2019, she formed Kouri Richins Realty LLC, using a power of attorney to quietly pull $250,000 from a home equity line of credit on Kouri's property without his knowledge. Then she scaled. 1 home in 2019, 5 homes totaling over $2.2 million in 2020, 15 homes totaling over $6.7 million in 2021. That same year, 2020, something else was taking shape. Robert Josh Grossman had answered a help-wanted ad for a house-flipping project in South Carolina years earlier. The two stayed in contact. Then in 2020, he moved to Utah. Their relationship became romantic in early 2020. Kouri let him stay in the home she was flipping, gave him money, and purchased 2 trucks for him. She was running an affair, a collapsing business, and a marriage, simultaneously. In December 2021, she texted Grossman, "I really enjoy my relationship and love for you. But we both know this love triangle can't go on forever. I can't expect you to sit around for the day the trigger gets pulled." That phrase. The trigger gets pulled. By March 2022, she owed approximately $7.5 million and was required to pay around $80,000 every single month. She had 4 separate payday lenders. She was paying $2,100 toward each day. Kouri had already started consulting lawyers, and according to prosecutors, Kouri had already chosen which life she intended to keep. She had what she needed. Now comes the question of when. On February 11th, 2022, Kouri contacted the housekeeper again and asked for something stronger, referring to it as some of the Michael Jackson stuff. The housekeeper provided 15 to 20 fentanyl pills. Kouri paid $900. 3 days later was Valentine's Day. On February 14th, Kouri prepared a sandwich for Kouri and placed it on the seat of his truck with a love note. She wasn't home when he ate it. Shortly after, Kouri texted her saying he wasn't feeling well. She told him to take a nap. He didn't go to the hospital, but he made 2 phone calls. He told one friend, "You almost lost me." He had broken out in hives, used his son's EpiPen, and taken Benadryl. He told the other friend he thought his wife had tried to harm him. A witness later said you could hear the fear in Kouri's voice. He had no food allergies, he stayed. And Kouri, according to prosecutors, went back to her source. On February 26th, she contacted the housekeeper again and asked for another $900 worth of fentanyl. The pills were left at the same property in Midway. Then came the evening of March 3rd, 2022. Kouri told investigators that she and Kouri had drinks together to celebrate her closing on a property. She made him a Moscow Mule in the kitchen and brought it to their bedroom, where he drank it in bed. After one of her sons had a nightmare, she went to sleep in the children's room. She said she woke around 3:22 in the morning. When she went back to their bedroom, she found Eric at the foot of the bed. She called 911. Emergency personnel arrived, performed CPR, and pronounced him dead at the scene. That was her account. She would repeat it, calmly, consistently, to everyone who asked. Eric was barely cold before Kouri started moving. Eric's sister, Kouri Richins Benson, arrived the morning of his death. She later testified that she fell to the floor the moment she knew her brother was gone. She said Kouri wasn't crying the way she wasn't hysterical. She just stood there and shook her head. The next day, Kouri organised a gathering. According to court documents, she invited friends over to the Kama's home, the same home where her husband had been found unresponsive less than 24 hours earlier. Then came the safe. 2 days after Eric's death, Kouri hired a locksmith to drill into it. Prosecutors alleged it held over $100,000 in cash. Eric's sister informed her she had no right to what was inside, that under the trust, those assets no longer belonged to her. Prosecutors say Kouri became enraged and struck her sister-in-law. She was later charged with assault and pleaded no contest. An autopsy found fentanyl in Eric's system, but the manner of death was officially left as undetermined. The medical examiner retired before the investigation concluded. For now, there was no official finding of wrongdoing. That window of ambiguity mattered, and Kouri appeared to understand it clearly. By fall 2022, the official investigation had largely stalled, but Eric's family hadn't stopped. In April 2022, his sister connected with a private investigator named Todd Gabler, 34 years of experience, a specialty in digital forensics. He conducted around 45 to 50 interviews. Kouri and her family declined to participate. Gabler noticed that the housekeeper ranked among Kouri's most frequent contacts between January and May 2022 and flagged her to the sheriff's office. Meanwhile, on a phone Kouri started using. In April 2022, investigators later recovered searches including: if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? Luxury prisons for the rich in America. And how to permanently delete information from an iPhone remotely. She had also manually deleted more than 800 messages exchanged with the housekeeper from January through mid-March 2022. She was publishing a book about grief with one hand. With the other, she was looking up prison ratings. From a jail cell, Kouri delivered her message through a spokesperson. She had been silent for a year, she said, locked away from her children, her family, her life. She called herself an innocent mother taken from her babies. And then, in 3 words, this means war. She sat at that defense table for 13 days and watched the case close around her. Grossman took the stand and put his head down as their private messages were read aloud. The ones where she wrote that she wanted him to be her husband one day, that life would be perfect if Eric could just go away. Friends testified. The housekeeper testified. The forensic accountant walked the jury through every overdraft and bounced check. The lead detective tied it together. Throughout the prosecution's closing argument, Kouri sat at the defense table, furrowing her brows, grinning at moments, leaning over to speak with her attorneys. Her defense had one consistent argument. Prosecutors could not prove how the fentanyl had entered Eric's body. Not one witness had seen it happen. The jury took less than 3 hours to decide it didn't matter. At 6:35 in the evening on March 16th, 2026, the verdict was read. Guilty on all counts. Kouri lowered her head as the judge read each one. Sentencing came on May 13th. It would have been Eric's 44th birthday. Social workers read the boys' written statements aloud. All 3 said they would feel unsafe if their mother were ever released. The middle son, now 11, addressed her directly. You took away my dad, for no reason other than greed, and you only cared about yourself and your stupid boyfriends. Kouri stood and spoke for 30 minutes. She told her sons what they had been told, that she took their father from them, was completely wrong, an absolute lie. Judge Murazik said the bottom line was this. She had been convicted unanimously of attempting to end her husband's life, and then, having failed, spent the next 17 days preparing to try again and completing the act. A person convicted of those things is simply too dangerous to ever be free. Life in prison, no possibility of parole, all sentences to run consecutively. Kouri raised her eyebrows at her attorney as the sentence landed. Her attorneys announced they would appeal.
The court hereby sentences you to an indeterminate prison term not to exceed 5 years. Based on your conviction on count 4, second-degree felony insurance fraud, the court hereby sentences you to an indeterminate prison term of not less than 1, and not more than 15 years.
The book is still out there. The dedication still reads the same. And the three boys it was written for now fall asleep every night in a house that isn't hers, asking, in their own way, the same question the child on the cover asks. Where did he go?